So after I checked out of the hotel the next day, I got back into my little rental car and I drove up to DC, where I went to visit another account, did some business, did my work. But my bestie and her husband worked in DC. He, at the time, I remember we were so young and just getting out and just being adults for the first time. I couldn't believe that he was getting paid like, I think it was like six figures. And at the time, that was a big deal, like 2000. But it wasn't so much that, like, he was getting paid six figures just to sit in a room and wait for, I guess, what they call security clearance. So our tax dollars, I don't know if you think about it, he's sitting in a room waiting for somebody to stamp a piece of paper, getting paid like at least $100 a year. Anyways, I didn't mind. I wish I could read books for 100,000. Yeah, you know what? I am. I'm going to read books for six figures a year. I'll find a way. But when there's a will, there's a way. When there's an ask, there's a way. But he worked for Lockheed Martin, and I went to their house to have dinner with them. And I think I spent the night. I think I spent the first night. And her husband, really funny dude. He changed his. I don't even know if he'd care, but I'll leave out his first name right now. But his last name. Oh, I guess I have to give it away. Anyway, his last name was Shock, Shock. And I won't say it, but you can guess. But he changed his first name from Shock to fit more into like protons and neutrons. Shock. He's a quirky dude, total nerd, engineering types, total quirk, Mormon, Mormon schooling, religion, belief system growing up. I think that always makes you a little odd, or at least from what I've told. Super nice though. Hold on, I'll be back. So, Mr. Shock, proton shock, electron shock. I think he must have had that early 20s extra testosterone. Grumpy, I didn't get enough exercise that day. I'm Mormon and still trying to figure myself out. Awkward. So weird. Love Mormons though. Nothing wrong with Mormons. Just kind of adds to the description of plus shock. But I remember going through his cabinets and I was going to make them dinner. And it was Bertoli's. Is it Bertoli? I just wanted to do like an Alfredo. But I'd gone to the store and actually gotten extra Alfredo because I didn't want to use up all of theirs. And I made them some dinner. But I remember it was so weird because I didn't really know Mr. Shock very well. But when he came home, like, I mean, maybe some dude shouldn't sit in a room and like read books, you know, or twiddle their thumbs or for that many hours a day. But he was in a grump mood that, well, he probably won't think he was in a grump mood. But it was when that episode of South Park came out where Cartman just kept saying like pig, fucker. And so I guess Adam was really on that. And he was like, did you use my, I gave it away. Thanks. Mr. Shock was like, did you use my Alfredo? He's like, you pig fucker? I think he called me a pig fucker about literally like 50 times or plus. And my bestie, Lala, was like, you know, trying to get him to tone down. Just, why do we marry these dudes? Like, why in your 20s are you just like, it's fine, it's okay. It's like we take on all the stress of like just the most uncomfortable aspects of the people around us, or if we're that type of person, I guess guys and girls. But these days I'd just be like, I don't know, I'd handle it differently. It'd still be fun though. It wouldn't be awkward. I'm gonna be 50 this year in like 10 days. Strangely, it seems less unbelievable or weird than 49. Although 49 this year, I'm just, the last the last 10 days of 4 plus 9, 13, Ophiuchus, astrology, wounded healer, the 13th astrological sign. If we had a 13-month calendar, I look it up, do the math, it works out so much better than 12. And we've been going through Ophiuchus for a minute now. If you guys remember, I think it was like early 2000s, we could have changed it. And some of us did. I think I'm just going to change it and go by that. And whoever's around me is just going to have to deal. Or get in sync. Or not. I'm sure we'd figure out a way. Right? It's like 2026 coming. Do you. Do me. Do it all. I don't care. Just have fun. Anyways, he was having tons of fun calling me a pig fucker, and I was just like, what is wrong with this dude? And one of the only reasons that I'm telling this annoying aspect of this story is because he actually wound up at the end of my visit giving me one of my absolute favorite albums of all time, which is by Roland Orzabal, Tomcats Screaming Outside. And if I didn't sing the lyrics or at the beginning, the rest of the song goes perfectly with, I believe in angels, they move like the secret army, and they help me blow the atheist sky high. Sorry, I couldn't go any lower, and I wasn't going to attempt to sing higher. But before I left, the next night we went to a pub restaurant. It was a cozy little pub restaurant. And I only had one drink. It was nighttime. Still a little tired from my business trip, but I decided to leave that night and drive throughout the night to get back to North Carolina. It was about a 5-hour drive, and I love to drive. I absolutely love to drive no matter what. I know a lot of people don't, but I like to drive particularly at night when it's calm and quiet, and it's just so peaceful and zone out. So as I was leaving, of course, my friends asked me to stay, just to be safe, but I was actually looking forward to driving that night and getting to the airport, which symbolically was called Triad International Airport. That's going to come into play with my angel story. And Mr. Shock, Mr. Electron, Neutron, Proton, Shock, gave me this album. And I realized it had just come out that year, which was 2001. And that made up for the whole. You know what? Him giving me that album made it worth knowing him. Not that he wasn't a great guy, and I'm sure, he's rolled out some of those issues in 2026. Something tells me he's a very pretty man these days. I don't think Mormons age. I think if you join, I don't know if they put that in the Mormon Bible, but I think that might be one of them. And stereotypically, too, I think, there's a ton of money. And aside from any other weirdness, what else? But really nice guy. Too much testosterone back then. But anyway, so gave them hugs, got the album, and I start heading to North Carolina, driving south from DC. It was a warm night. The sky, if I think about it, kind of had a pink and a yellow kind of hue overlay over the sky, the dark sky. And it was dry, not even balmy. I remember it being dry and warm. But now that I think back on it, it makes sense because there was electricity in the air. There was going to be a thunderstorm, which will come into play. And as I'm just zoning out, just kind of tired, driving south, it's about a 5-hour cruise, and about 30 minutes in, just hearing like the wheels, the tires on the pavement, and that it strikes me that I wanted to call the Grandover Hotel in Greensboro and find out if I could figure out that the guy that I had a crush on, I wanted to figure out if I could either talk to him. I think he said he was going to check out, but I really just kind of wanted his last name for some reason. You know, when you get fixated on something. It's just I'm a weirdo too, just one of those whims. And I've always worked in hotels, and I've always, usually front desk. And I know that hotel policy states that unless you know the hotel guest name first and last, and or room number, uh, security policy usually they won't transfer the telephone and connect you to the guest room unless you have specific details. But why not try? So I called the hotel. It was I think at this point I must have been on the road longer, because at this point, a couple hours, because at this point I want to say it was around 10 p.m. at night. I thought it was later because this is the Grandover. I don't know who owns it, but I know my overnight shifts were usually 11 to 7. But I remember being on the phone with this guy for a good while, like an hour and a half, the front desk agent, right? Like, what else? But when I called, the front desk agent, who it was a young male voice, I have no idea to this day what he looks like, but if I could imagine what he looked like, he was probably slim to moderate, but on the slim side, probably about 5'11" to 6'1" or 2", probably blonde or light brown hair, clean, nice skin, wholesome, just not innocent, but youthful, and I guess innocent that way. Good boy, with a very gentle voice. And I had called, and the only details I knew of this gentleman that I had met at the bar the night before, remember the Louis the 14th shot for $150 guy. All I knew was his name was Ben. He was senior vice president of marketing for Cognos Corporation, and that he was staying on the club level, floor 17. And the front desk agent, I asked if he could connect me, if he could find, and of course, he basically was like, well, according to our policy, and I didn't press it. I mean, that's just kind of strangely improper, kind of not thirsty, but just not cute. But I didn't press it, and I said, yeah, I was just asking on the off, on the offhandedly, if you might have run into this man, or if you just happen to remember, or whatever. Anyways, when I look back on this night, there are some people that just come into your life because God placed them there. And I just, almost turning 50 here, and my belief system now with all of my experiences, I don't believe in coincidence. You could call it that, but to me it's more synchronicity, because there's a pattern and a rhythm to life. And that night was just one of those nights where I know that this front desk agent, this young man, this easy, very light, casual, yet very proper Southern, polite conversation I had with this front desk guy for a couple hours. And it was a really boring conversation. Something tells me, well, I know me, and I knew that I just kind of felt like, it'd be awkward to get off the phone, and these young people, please, that kind of stuff. And he might have enjoyed the conversation. He seemed like he would just like the flow of just easy conversation. And plus, overnight shift. What else are you gonna do? But we were on the phone for at least an hour and a half, I think. And it started raining, and I still love to drive in thunderstorms, but I used that as I knew I needed to get gas at that point, and I used that as, just the way to kind of smoothly get off the phone. Now that I think about it, I was like, why did I stay on the phone that long? But now I know why, because before I got off the phone, I'm a very customer service-oriented person, and I'm always kind of asking questions to get to know people, just as habit, whether or not I don't know, it's like just information gathering. And I remembered his name was Alan, and I said, Alan, it was very nice to meet you. If I come back to the Grandover Hotel, and you're still working here, who may I ask for? And he said, he remembered my name. He said, Rand, that thunderstorm out there sounds pretty bad. And I really want you to be cautious and careful tonight. And there was just something, even though he was like super gentle, there was just something about the way he said it that sticks with me. You know, those people that are young, but they're just so mature when they say things. Like, maybe it's not so much mature as it is like angelic, like divine, like, which is mature, you know, it's wise. But he said, you can ask for Alan Angel. And then I got off the phone. And at this point, the raindrops were like really big raindrops. And I looked down at the gas gauge, and it was less than half, so about quarter tank, so I knew I needed to get gas.